guys, so something a little different today. I think I'm going to do a bit of a RC review and a bit of an RC build up. So, because I went and bought the new Axial AX24s. I bought two of them. As you can see here, I bought the orange and the green. Couldn't exactly decide which color I liked better, so I bought them both. The initial plan is for right now is I'm going to leave one stock and modify another one. But I figured at this rate, what we're going to do is we're going to do a bit of an unboxing. Do a review on what I think of the build quality is right out of the box. And then we will take it back on ye olde crawler course back here and see how it does. Box stock, nothing changed. Just throw the batteries in it and go. Then this one, I have a selection of parts. Daddy's working on a video.
I have my balloon here.
You got your balloon? Cool. Okay, but hey, Daddy's trying to film, so you won't be down here. You gotta be shh. Okay? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry that I'm in your way in my basement. But, yeah. I figure we'll go through. We'll do a review on how they are stock. And I'll show you the parts I'm planning on using the Modify one. And what I think is going to work well as far as making it better with modifications. Not just throw parts at it to throw parts at it. A couple of things I did buy, I will admit, is throwing parts at it to throw parts at it, but I liked the idea of one of them, and the other one just kind of made sense to go with it, so you'll see what I mean when we get there. So, first things first, before we even take it out of the box, this one I did take out of the box, so I'm going to show you again. Something I noticed as soon as I picked it up, and the wife made a comment about very quickly as well, is just sitting in the box. It is very, very apparent that these are some soft springs. And the wife even went as far as making a very visual comparison to certain parts of a busty woman's anatomy of the jiggle factor. So there's that. But after that, we'll get it out of the box here. I really need a taller chair. Like I said, this one I had started to take out of the box on the way home. So I didn't do anything with it. I literally just pulled it out and looked at it and went, this is neat. So get these off of here. So, packaging realistically seems like any other Axial packaging. Nothing crazy. Now, my understanding is, while the batteries are the same, the axles are basically the same. The chassis is completely different. The links are, I think, are a little different than most of the ones that came with the SCX24s. And the electronics are different. Whereas the original SCX24s had a Axial-based system that they made themselves, or at least was branded by them. The later ones with the Gladiator and the Bronco, which then filtered into the rest of the lineup, came with a newer system that was branded as a Horizon setup, and these come with another system that is branded as a actual Spectrum system. The remote is the SLT3. I believe this is here so you can control the settings for the four-wheel steer. We will get into that when we get into it. The truck itself, though, like I said, the axles are the same, the servo is the same, it comes with, these are the biggest wheels and tires that come on any of the 24s. These are a shrunk down version of the original AX10 Rock Blizzards. So they're super soft. They do not feel as if they have foam in them, which I think is a bit of a bummer. I think they'd be better with foam. These also come with a drastically longer shock than any of the SCX10s do as well. So this is one of the few rigs where I think a double barrel will actually be a good option. Because the double barrel shocks that a lot of guys like to run, even running them in droop in a lot of trucks, it's still way too much. I think on here though, it'll be okay. So then when you pop the body open, matter of fact, if you do it right, you can go ahead and pop the body completely off because it is Velcroed front and rear. Even though it does have a hinge mount in the back to make battery access easy. And then as you can see here, it has a Spectrum 2-in-1 ESC receiver combo, which has places for throttle, steering, and then it looks like the rear steer is on channel 3. Oh, excuse me, guys. So I don't know. It's definitely controlled by here, but I don't know if that's changes the settings exactly to where it all works through the steering or what. We will figure that out in a couple. Like I said, I am just as new to this. I haven't even watched any videos on this truck yet. I wanted it to be just see it for what it is. I knew I wanted it. That was enough for me. The chassis design is completely different, and a big complaint I know I've read a lot of people have, just looking at it, none of them drove it, just looking at it, is that it's going to be top heavy because everything is mounted up high. Now, the thing that gets me with that is everyone seems to be forgetting this was based off the original design of the AX10, which is the AX10 Scorpion, which is what introduced Axial to everybody. It was designed the same exact way, and with very little tweaking, it was a massively good performing truck. So I am not concerned about this part. Even at this scale, that is realistically not that much weight up high. The moment you run everything and droop and drop it down, suddenly it's not going to matter anymore. It's fine. I do like these boat sides that they have put on to stop everything from hanging up. That is a good design, I think, that the AX10 never had. And it gave them a good place to put LED rock lights in. So, and it's got them front and rear, or front and rear, same thing. So, then the battery is in a little compartment right here. So, I think overall, I don't think it's set up too bad. Is it going to be a little top heavy? Yes, it will be. It will be. Which means some driving changes will need to be made for most people, but overall, I think it'll be okay. So, now, we'll get batteries in the Alright, so, now, I did take the stock battery out, which is a reaction pack. It's the 350 milliamp hour 2S 30C burst that comes with all the SCX24s. It's no different than any of the rest of them. That is what I put in here. This is not going to get shown with any kind of fancy hopped up battery or anything. Just what it comes with out of the box. So, it has your standard front wheel steer, forward reverse. You can see they're moving around. It is very bouncy. Then, by pushing this button right here, you push it, we'll see if it does it in one shot this time. Down once, 4-wheel steer. You push it up, and you're back to 2-wheel. Down, 4-wheel. And 4-wheel steer does let it turn much sharper than a standard 24 does. So, Now, I will say, even just driving here on the table, given this is not a lot of room, that it does have the same issue that a lot of four-wheel steer trucks have. It doesn't exactly return to straight very well. The back always has a bit of a walk to it, so does the front. So it has a bit of that, which isn't a huge deal. It's pretty normal for a four-wheel steer truck. I do like how well the four-wheel steer turns on and off, though. So that's a plus. It does seem to control about as good as all the rest of the 24s do. So climbs fairly well. But I am concerned that once you start actually trying to climb and not just run into things to pick the front end up, about how it's going to do with actually keeping the nose down. So, which again, it's a bit of a top-heavy truck. The springs, though, do keep it a lot lower than it seems. So, because, I mean, it seems like it should want to set up here, which would be the top of the springs. But it actually wants to set with the springs almost all the way collapsed. So, that is going to make things a bit better. It's so jiggly. But, yeah. So, I'm curious to see how it's going to do. So, enough talking about it for the minute. Let's get it back on the trail and see how it does. Alright, I'm going to give this voiceover stuff a shot because I've never really done it before. So this should be entertaining for me and you. See how bad I suck at it. So at this point, I'm just testing it on the rocks. I'm still kind of playing with the four-wheel steer settings too because I've never had a truck that had four-wheel steer that worked like this one does. Most of them were always on a like three-way toggle switch type deal where it was full left, full right, or dead center. There was nothing else. So this, having it to where it turns with the steering, was really nice. But at the same time, it also was a weird concept because now I actually needed to pay attention to where my back tires were at, and I'm not really used to that. Normally, I only got to pay attention to the steer tires. Well, in this case, all four steer. So it did throw me off a little bit, but overall, the handling was really good. I thought the springs were going to cause more of an issue with how soft and like bouncy they are, but realistically it worked really well. They allowed it to flex better than expected without it being like a bounce back type deal. The tires do seem to be a bit on the balloony side, I guess would be the best way to put it, because they're just air. There's nothing in them to absorb impact with them. So they just kind of bounce on stuff. But their overall grip didn't seem to be too bad. Here I get hung up on the axle, which was more my fault than the truck's fault. Like I said, the four-wheel steer really throws a difference into the steering that I'm not used to. But overall, I gotta say, on the rocks it was pretty good. But also, I noticed in the video, I really like the rock lights too. This little section of the video was a lot longer than I thought. I wish I had more to say. But, I mean, like I said, it's... Oh, and we rolled. Like I said, and some of this is like, that's just my driving. That's not something faulted of the truck per se. Okay, here, this is a slate ramp that I like to test tires on because it really shows how much grip they really have, because if they can actually get a hold of that slate and pull themselves up over that ledge, they're really not that bad of a tire. And I do fight with it a little bit, but some of it was I had the four-wheel steer on, and that kind of threw me off. Once I shut that off, it climbed right up. It was just a matter of figuring out where I was at. This was more or less me having fun, just kind of testing some differences with the suspension. Getting used to how tight the turning radius can actually be with that four-wheel steer, because that is impressive. Okay, this ramp right here, this is the very first entry path I made for my crawler area. And it's gotten dug out to the point that a lot of my SCX24s can't actually do it anymore. And this thing, while it looks like it's struggling, here in a second you'll see it's not really struggling. It's just me driving. It walks right up it without issue. And I just, that in stock form was impressive. And then I suck at driving back downhill. Then this next thing that's going to happen, this is something none of my SCX24s have done ever. This is not a drivable line for any of them. And I fight with it a little bit though. As I get it kind of bound up, because there is a brick laying right there, and I almost get it. It's like it's so close, and I topple over, and I bring it back down to myself to restart, which I think that was where I kind of made a mistake. I should have just gave up on it at that point, but I had a feeling I could actually do it. And while this doesn't look really complicated here, it's a lot of loose dirt, and what you can see sticking out of places isn't really anything structural for the tire to push up on, except for that brick and a little bit of rock on the other side. That's it. And I think right here is where I do the neat little kick flip around the pipe here in a second. I got hung up on it. Maybe I'm wrong. It's coming up. It's got to be coming up. Yeah, I think it's here. I get the tire hooked on the pipe and pretty much drive my way right back around to where I started. Yep, right there. Do a neat little kick flip. But after that, start figuring out the line to actually get through there. Because like I said, at this point, none of the other trucks can get as far as that just did. Let alone actually climb up the hill from that angle. Most of them, if they're not coming dead on at it, they can't get up. It does struggle a little bit, but there's a lot of loose dirt on that hill that you can't see. And right here, I'm actually trying to like drive up the dirt wall that's there. That they can't do it. But none of the other trucks can either. This is the last like big obstacle on my course, and most of the trucks have been struggling to get up it. Versus this, just pretty much walked right there and not much of an issue. And it drives across fairly well, and it drops down off the exit. I actually had a video, I thought I had a video of it climbing back up, but the recording of it got lost. So overall, solid little truck. Really like it. So I gotta say, for box stock, for something everyone claims was going to be super top heavy and just wasn't going to work as well as it should and blah, 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 that actually did really well. Given my course is not that complicated, but this did stuff the SCX24s don't do. So, which hopefully if I did this video right, there's a bit of a voiceover through a lot of that, talking about some of it. But, so yeah, I'm almost afraid that some of what I want to do might ruin it a little bit. So, I'm still going to do all of it. Part of what I want to do is actually eliminate the rear steer. So, I'm actually going to be robbing a lot of parts off of one of my other 24s, because I want to, as odd as it sounds, I want to swap out the electronics to get rid of the four-wheel steer function completely from it, because I think I kind of want to put that on one of my other trucks. I think. For today's video, and as far as me modifying everything, I'm probably going to swap out the rear axle, but I'm probably not swapping out the electronics. I'm just going to leave the stock electronics in, because for the purposes of what I'm wanting to do, it's not going to change anything either way. But I gotta say, I am rather impressed with it, because like I said, it works very well. I randomly found another setting in the four-wheel steer that I didn't realize was there when I initially was showing you guys the truck. And again, I didn't read a lot. I only even vaguely read the box before starting this video. So, and that is, it's got a crab walk feature too. So everything I had done to start with, I somehow managed to bypass that. So truck's on, remote's on. Okay, we got regular steer. We got crab walk. Okay, then if you go back to the regular steer, then press the A button up again, you get crab walk. So that's why, if you notice, part way through the video, toward the end there, I was driving kind of weird. I was like, what's going on? I put it in crab walk instead of just normal steer like I wanted. I was like, why is it still four-wheel steer? Wait a minute, that's crab walking. Why is it crab walking? And I like how seamlessly it can actually switch between all three settings. That's actually really nice. But yeah, I gotta say, for a box stock truck, it does pretty dang well. Like I said, I've got SCX24s here with upgraded tires, upgraded wheels, some brass thrown at them and stuff, different motors, and they don't do as well as this just did. So I'm very surprised. So I guess the next thing we'll go ahead and do is we'll get into the mods I'm going to do to the other one. Most of them are for the added benefit of keeping the front nose down and all that stuff. There's a couple of them that are just there to be there, but I think there's the potential like weight savings in the right spots that'll help. So we'll get into that now. Let me gather everything. All right, laid out here on our messy as ever workbench are the items we are going to be throwing at this AX24. They include the HR, or the Hot Racing diff cover. It's their heavy one. It's 13 grams of brass. We're throwing that on the front diff. We're going to be using two. I think we might actually use all four of these on one truck for once. We're going to put at least two of these axle shaft weights on as well on the front. This is more because of one of the other things we're adding. This is a brass skid plate. This is going to help get the weight down as far as the center of gravity does, but it will up the weight of the truck overall. This is another one to help try to bring the center of gravity down a little bit. This is a servo mount plate that's made out of brass. Probably overkill, not really necessary, but we're going to put it on because, like I said, the more weight we can get down to the axles, the better off we are. Now, this is probably one that is more for looks than anything else, but they were shiny and I wanted them. A set of carbon fiber chassis sides for this brand new AX10. Like I said, they are probably overkill and not really necessary, but they will go well with the skid and should help theoretically drop a little bit of this weight back off of the truck. I may regret this later, but we're going to try it anyway. I'm going to delete the four-wheel steer and put just a solid regular axle in it. And this axle has slightly longer links than this does, so it's going to stretch the wheelbase just a touch, which in turn will actually help with a forward weight bias. Here are our +4 axle shafts we're going to be using as well. I have a set of Endura double barrels. I'm playing with the idea of putting those on. Whoops. But I might not yet. I'm going to compare them to the overall length of the stock ones. If they seem similar or maybe a touch shorter, I don't want them to be a lot shorter than the stock ones. those may go on. Then we're going to swap out the wheels and tires to this set of Endura bead locks with RC 4-wheel drive scrambler tires on them. Now, these have foams inside of them, unlike the rock lizards. So these should help soak up some of the bounciness of the truck as well. The tread pattern isn't too bad. I think the tread pattern will do good back here in my crawler course. Admittedly, these were not the ones I originally thought about putting on there. The ones I originally thought about putting on here were these right here, wheels and tires. I was going to put on these RC 4-wheel drive wagon wheels, and I was going to reverse them so they had a deeper dish and they stuck out farther. And these RC 4-wheel drive mudslingers, which are a much more aggressive tread pattern than the scramblers. But in all actuality, as much as I love mudslingers, I have found down here on my course that this aggressive of a tread pattern isn't always the best thing in the world. But I do love a set of mudslingers, so these are going to end up on something. I just don't think for the purposes of this video it's going to be this truck. I think they're going to end up on something else. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to throw all these parts at that one and see how it goes. You may see me partway through decide to not use that axle and throw and leave this 4-wheel steer. We'll see. I'm still very up in the air on that. And I wasn't until I drove the other one, actually. Driving the other one made me realize I really like the 4-wheel steer. But the thing is, I don't know if I want 2 of these at 4-wheel steer, or if I want to add that functionality to this truck when I rebuild it and have 4-wheel steer on it. I think that would be a lot of fun. So it has me up in the air. I think I'm going to do it just so I have the parts freed up for that. Which means eventually this will get the electronics swapped out of it to another truck. To that truck, and the electronics from that truck will end up in this one. But for now, I'm going to leave the stock ones in it because, well, for testing purposes of the video, they all work the same. So yeah, all right. I am going to throw you guys back up to the tripod, probably throw it in time lapse, and start building. Hope you guys enjoy. so far, we have managed to do the full chassis swap the skid plate, and swap out the rear axle. These links do seem to be binding a little bit, but at the same time, I don't think they're really going to hurt travel once it has all the weight of the truck setting on it. You got to remember, in terms of that, these are some parts that were never meant to work together before. I'm going to change the back drive shaft as well, which I'm hoping, now that the whole thing is together, is not going to be that big of a nightmare, but we'll find out in a minute. So I'm happy with that so far. I think the next thing we're going to do is we got to tear the front axle down around the front so we can change out the shafts and the servo mount and the diff cover, and then the back is just going to be changing out the shafts and then throwing the wheels and tires on it, and we'll have it done. This is actually, believe it or not, at a half hour to do what we've done is actually relatively quick. I'm pretty happy with the way this thing comes apart and goes back together. And I even made a couple mistakes along the way and had to change some things out because they didn't work the way I thought they were going to do. So I'm okay. I'm happy with that. All right, back to work. Alright, so we got it done. We will talk a little bit about a couple of things you probably noticed happened in the video, and a couple of things you noticed that probably changed from what I originally told you. We'll start with the one that sucks the most. As you see, and as you watched, I went from I was going to put the brass servo mount on it to taking it back off. And that's because one of the bolts broke off as I was trying to put it in. Apparently you need shorter screws or something. I didn't know that. I broke one off, and I didn't trust one of them to hold the servo. So back out it come. And from there, I didn't change the shocks, and that's because the double barrels are shorter, and more so, if you see the lean of the shocks, not like this, but the angle of which they come out at, the double barrels really don't have enough play in them at the joints, at the tie rods, there we go, or the ball ends, to make that work very well, especially when you start throwing it in situations where it is flexing. So I decided against them. Maybe I will change my mind on that later. We will see. And I didn't put the rear weights on because, well, I just changed my mind on it, and I didn't feel like opening that package up. That could change at a later date. This is definitely a first revision of modifying this thing. I definitely see me doing more to it. But for now, it's definitely good enough. But anyway, enough talking. Let's drive it. There we go, guys. I gotta say, this was impressive. Don't get me wrong, this one was too, but this was just a few minimal changes that actually made a difference. Because let's face it, the carbon fiber chassis and the brass skid probably didn't really help that much. Most of what helped was the wheels, tires, and the front weight. And the lengthening of the rear wheelbase helped some too. This thing outperformed this very well for the minimal modifications we did, while still running what everyone considers a crappy servo and everything. but the box stock one was just overly impressive for a truck that everyone says shouldn't do nearly as well as I thought it did. Because everyone says it's too top heavy, it won't do this, it won't do that. Yes, I rolled it a few times. I'm willing to admit I'm not a great driver. I don't think anything that happened while driving this happened because of it. I think it happened because of me. Why? Because I did it other times. I just couldn't always repeat it because I couldn't drive it the same every time. And I was playing with the four-wheel steer. So I'm not used to driving with that. That changes your dynamic of where you need to pay attention to tire placement. Versus this one, I only got to pay attention to the front wheels and where they're turning and where they're pointing. The backs don't change. So that made a difference. I will say I definitely feel that I believe these were $159. Yeah, $159.99. So you might as well say $160. This was worth the $160. This is a awesome little truck. I highly suggest you guys actually give it a try. And no, this is in no way, shape, or form an Axial related thing, because Axial didn't pay for any of this. I paid for every bit of it today at the hobby shop myself. I'm overly impressed by it. Especially considering all the, just reading people's reviews and comments and stuff they made on Facebook. I really thought this wasn't going to be that good. I thought it was going to need all of this that was done here, along with this and these, to really be a good truck. I figured I was going to get this far, take it back there, drive it, and go, crap. And then bring it back in here, swap out the shocks, maybe swap the tires again, and then go back and actually drive it for you guys on film. This is perfectly good. Like, this is, throw it on the shelf and it's ready to go for next time. I don't think I need to change a thing. The only bummer of the whole thing is this $22 servo mount that now has a screw broke off in it that I got to figure out how to deal with. Which I think is probably going to be drill it out through the back or something and replace it. So, because I don't want that to just be $22 wasted. I want that to be $22 of actual, like, usable part. So, for anyone curious about the wheelbase difference, I did say the wheelbases are a bit different. See, it's not much, but it's enough. It's enough. And this carbon fiber chassis, because I don't believe I've seen it on here. Yeah. Nope, it's got it on here too, never mind. I'll say there is options for where you can put the upper link mounts as well to kind of help change the angles of some things. And I believe, no, I put them in the same as stock. Alright, cool. So, but overall, I'm very happy with that. The extra weight helped a ton, and I don't think I lost anything by not adding any more weight to the back with all the weight that was taken off of the back, with there not being any servo or anything now, because these wheels are considerable amount heavier than the stock ones. So, but yeah. Alright, there we go, guys. It's going to be probably a little longer video than I had intended it to be, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys like these new AX24s. I don't know why they say XC1 on the side. So it was AX24. But there you go. Go pick you guys up one of these, have some fun with it, and I think grand total the parts we threw at it, let's see, because we're not going to count that. Let's see, the brass diff was $19. The stub axles were $13. The carbon plates were $15. So there's those. The axle weights are $9. We only used half of them. The skid plate, the brass diff cover, that was the big spendy one. That was $27. The skid plate, I think, was about the same price. I'm not finding the label for it right now. I want to say it was like $27 as well. So we threw, we doubled down on it. But like I said, you could get away with not using this skid. You could get away with not using those carbon fiber chassis rails. Clearly you don't need this. That right there, that cuts, what, $60 off of what I said I spent. These are just some Enduro wheels off of eBay that are like, I think, $20. Another $20 in rubber. So you could do it cheaper than I just did this one. Not by much. You could also not use name brand parts. You could order everything off of eBay and get it infinitely cheaper because everything axle wise is the same as the SCX24. So you could do it cheaper on that end. If you want to do this, the rear axle swap, that's going to cost you something unless you have a parts truck laying around, and oh my god, do I got parts trucks. But yeah, alright, I'm going to stop rambling because we both know how I get about that. And on that note, I will see you guys next time. Remember, get out, have some fun with your stuff. Or if you got a basement course, get out and run on it for a little bit. Build you something fun. I'll see you guys next time.